Welcome to the Caribbean Property Investing Podcast, where we share real life experiences for successful Caribbean property entrepreneurs. Learn about their successes, challenges, and strategies to help you create your plan for financial freedom. Now, let's get started.
Welcome to episode 45 of the Caribbean's first property investing podcast. We thank you for all the support. We thank you for sharing, liking, all the comments, all the feedback. Remember our YouTube channel, check it out, share, like, and just say hi. Send us a note saying hello and what you think the podcast has done for you and what ideas that you may have or suggestions on possible areas that we can cover. Today we have only our third solo show. That's just me talking directly to you. Just like you, I prefer to have guests, but sometimes we have to go alone. But today's episode is something that's very, very, very important because it speaks to where we start and how we actually grow. When I just got interested in property investing some 15 years ago, I started looking at any podcast I could find online. I look at podcasts from Australia, from the UK, and from the US. Now, listening to the US podcast, I stumbled across Bigger Pockets podcast, an amazing podcast, great stories. I mean, it's a big operation now, big platform. There was a host called David Green, and he spoke about this famous method which he has made popular, and it's called the property investment strategy. And the BRRRR stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. So BRRRR. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And in that strategy, property investors just spend days, months, maybe looking for distressed properties that they can find, buy at a very low price, put money in, rehab it, get new tenants in, and then go back. They revalue it. So, for example, if you bought it like for $400,000, you put $300,000 in it, you all in for like $700,000. But then after it's appraised, you might get a value of like $1 million. So then they go back to the bank. They say, hey, bank, I bought this for $400,000. Now it's valued at $1 million. Can I take a loan for the equity that we've created? So 400 plus the 300 that they put in, and the 300 brings you up to the $1 million on the new valuation price. The bank would actually, in some cases in the US, they would give you that $300,000 back in your hand or even more if you can show that the rental revenue actually can pay back for your mortgage. It's a common investment strategy used by American investors, and it works for them. But in the Caribbean, in my experience, I thought it was very difficult because one, we don't have a lot of distressed properties, and because the way we build is very different. We use concrete and steel primarily, whereas in America, there's a lot of drywall and timber and plastic siding called or stucco. Sometimes I'm actually amazed when I see developments going on in Florida where you actually see like plywood boards in 1 month, and they come back 5 months later and you see an amazing building with the sidings. It sells, it's fast, but it doesn't meet our strict kind of guidelines for hurricane protection. Having said all of that, that method is popular and people employed. But for us in the Caribbean, in St. Lucia, I felt it wasn't an option because when we buy a distressed property with concrete and steel, we may have structural issues. We may have what they call subsidence, structural issues with the floors, the columns. We may have steel in there that's rusty and busting the columns. Subsidence where you may have pieces of the foundation or parts of the foundation kind of falling off and cracking, and it's just too risky. So for a lot of us, we just prefer to look for a piece of land and we build. So I've developed a model which I didn't have much of a choice in developing because it was the only way I would have been able to continue getting properties and keeping my job because the bank would only give me one mortgage at a time. So my model is called the BHSR model. So you build, You sell, you hold the rest, and you rent it. So you build, you sell enough units in a multifamily building to pay back the loan. You keep the rest, you hold the rest, and you rent it. And I was able to use that model to help me replace my 9 to 5 job and my 9 to 5 salary because I was able to get one mortgage at a time to one project at a time. So now in project number 6, first one was Marisol Ridge. We did 4 2 bedroom, 2.5 bath units. Then I did where I live now. We did 7 units, a penthouse, and 6 units. That's Bonnet Bay, Calabash Condo, Bonnet Bay. Then we did Calabash Condos, South Hills, where we did 3 units, 2 2 bedrooms and 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and one 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath. Then after that, we did phase 2 in Marisil, Calabash Condos, Marisil, where we actually did 10 one-bedroom units. We also did a two condo conversion, a duplex to a fourplex. So we did 2 condos. We split down the center, 2 condos into 4 units. That's Calabash Condos, Radio Beach. But today we're going to talk about the scaling from 4 units or 3 units to 10 units and what challenges and opportunities that presents. So stay tuned. We're going to go through the strategy, the challenges, and hopefully, you get to learn something. So when you are ready to scale up from 1, 2, or 3 to more, you would have some lessons that you have learned from my good and bad experiences. Stay tuned.
Caribbean Property Investing presents CPI Wire, the Caribbean's first exclusive real estate intelligence feed. CPI Wire will deliver Caribbean real estate news, development updates, investment opportunities, market trends, regional project activity, tourism and property insights, financial and economic developments affecting real estate.
Welcome back. At first, when I started this process, when I decided that, I need to supplement my income, I need to do something for myself, for my family, outside of my work to give me some extra financial security. I was just trying to build something that would rent. I still had a criteria, as I said in previous podcasts, where I would look for special areas, small lots, close to amenities, transportation, ideally a sea view, and just try to stay within budget. So I started and just trying to get through those projects. Lots of mistakes, lots of lessons. I was just trying to build something that worked. But over time, I noticed a pattern. Every project, we had the same core objectives. Recover the capital as it pay back the mortgage amount because while I had my current job, I also had a mortgage where I lived. And so the bank would not give an additional mortgage so readily because you would have maybe passed your what they call the debt service ratio, which is 40% of your salary. No more than 40% of your salary should be going towards debt servicing. And so only one mortgage I would have qualified for. So the extra loan I would have taken, I would have had to sell pieces of it and pay it back, so I can continue repeating the process. That would allow me to create units, and so I'll be able to replace my income over time. In recognizing the process, build on time, within budget, or maybe marginally over, pay back the capital by selling the units and then keeping the units, the residual units that are free and clear, and then trying to get tenants. So my strategy was, like I said, build, I sell some to pay back the investment, I hold the rest, and I rent it. And then you regularize the rental, try to make sure you have no vacancies, and then you go back to the bank again. I say, hey bank, I paid back this loan. You may have charged me an early repayment penalty. I'm ready to go again. So that was the process that I developed out of necessity because I couldn't have gotten a second loan. I had to sell piece of the building, do multifamily, to pay back the loan to qualify for another. As I said before, my first development after my house was an apartment below. Once I realized that that apartment was bringing 50% of my mortgage, I got interested and I started reading more about property investing. Outside of that, I then did a 4-unit 4 two-bedroom unit, 2.5 bath. I did 4 of them, got 1 mortgage. I sold 2, which was able to repay the mortgage, and I had 2 left. Then I realized that I wanted to grow. I moved on to other projects, but then I noticed from the market feedback that the price point was quite high. At the time, about 2016, we sold 2 bed, 2 bath, roughly 900 square feet, 450 on the ground floor, 450 on the first floor, and you have like a 200 square foot deck. We sold that unit for just over $500,000. I realized that in that same property, we were supposed to do the exact thing, just replicate it. But then I heard from customers and I realized that why should I continue doing 4 two-bedrooms at just over $500,000 when there was a huge market for under $500,000? In fact, most of the persons who came to me thought over $500,000 was too much money for them. And a lot of those customers were single professional women. So I then decided in the same space that we would have had the 4 two-bedroom unit in Calabash Condos Marriott Ridge, I decided to put a staircase and separate the top floor from the bottom floor. So I did 4 units at the bottom, 1 bedrooms, 440 square feet, 4 units at the top. And the space between the first block of 4 two-bedrooms and the second block of 8 one-bedrooms, there was a space on top and the bottom. I put 2 more units in there. So we now have a project of 10 one-bedroom units. And the reason for this, as I said, is about pricing, but also it was about maximizing the income potential of the property. Because by far, the majority of my customers were from the diaspora. The majority of my customers were either one, female professionals here, or the diaspora who wanted to have some investment back home. And as much as they would have preferred to have a 2-bedroom at a price point below $400,000. In fact, we sold those, I think, for $340,000 EC, a price unheard of in Saint Lucia. I never heard of any condos with a sea view, 5 minutes walk to the beach, right outside the main highway for $340,000. And so immediately, I recognized that there was potential. And even before we finished the project, we got more sales than we needed. Sorry. And remember what we said in the model: the buy, sell, hold, and rent. Sorry, not buy. Build. I get confused. You build, sell, hold, and rent. We built 10. We sold 6. So selling of 6 was enough to repay the mortgage. And we had 4 one-bedroom units left, which we keep right now for rental. We have one as an office space. We have one as a small 1-bedroom unit on Airbnb. And we have another 2 one-bedroom units that we do medium-term rental. And it's quite active. It's a great location. So by using that model and scaling from 4 units to 10 units, 1, generated more revenue. 2, based on the incremental revenue that you have, you might have some free cash flow as well. And of course, you also have more units to put on rent. So we move from, for example, the 2-bedroom units, which on average we rented for about $3,700, but it was $500,000, compared to the 1-bedroom unit, which we rent for about $3,000. So a $700 difference for $160,000 less. So the math, as the young people say, the math was mathing for investors. And so even if realtors like myself and the property purists may say that, oh, the units are too small at 440, I understood what the market wanted: clean, safe, gated, sea view, great proximity, modern, clean lines at a good price. The people who buy those units, I have a professor from Michigan, Saint Lucian. I have the local doctors. I have a local lawyer. I have a young couple. I have a professional accountant in Canada. I have another lawyer from Canada. And everybody I've spoken to except one, St. Lucians. So the price point was great for them. And right now they have it on Airbnb or they have it on medium term corporate rental. It worked out for them. And in this case, it worked out for me. But now I'm going to go through and share with you all the challenges that we experience in scaling up from a 4 units to a 10 unit project. Stay tuned.
Caribbean Property Investing presents CPI Wire, the Caribbean's first exclusive real estate intelligence feed. CPI Wire will deliver Caribbean real estate news, development updates, investment opportunities, market trends, regional project activity, tourism and property insights, financial and economic developments affecting real estate.
So, as the saying goes, all that glitters isn't gold. In as much as by scaling up from 4 units to 10 units brought you greater efficiency, certainly a much higher return on your investment in the land, brought you also more revenue, it also brought challenges of its own. And some of them were almost insurmountable, as I'm about to share with you. Quite personal as well. So the 5 key issues that we had to deal with by scaling up from 4 to 10 units are around: 1, financing. More units, more money. So whereas in the 4 2-bedroom townhouses, I had 4 kitchens, in the 10 units, I had 10 kitchens, and kitchens are expenses. Expensive. I did have fewer bathrooms, but we'll get to that. The second issue is the complexity of the build. Now that you have to scale up and put more utility or find more utility in a smaller space, that brings issues of the need to be more meticulous. And we may have a problem with trades, a challenge with trades in St. Lucia, professionalism, competence, all of those issues will start showing up, and we'll speak more about it. Another issue is time. Typically, from start to finish, my project might take about a year. This time it took maybe like a year and a half. Another issue that we had to deal with was the contractor management. And that was a challenge in itself, which we're going to talk about. The fifth issue, and probably the biggest issue that we had, was cash flow. I encountered some serious issues because even after the loan was approved, we had some problems. So let's dial back. Let's go to issue number 1. So financing and your request to have a bigger loan from the bank is always going to be met with greater scrutiny. Fortunately for me, because this was like my 4th project, I had a track record. Once you have a track record and a relationship with your bank, you then probably you don't get you probably get more favorability. You still have to meet the criteria, but you have more favorability. You are a known entity, so they know what you're capable of. And in as much as every project is new, and you cannot always predict exogenous shocks externally, by and large, once you have the meticulous analysis of your proposal by your banker, you're probably given a little more leeway, you have a little more trust, and the confidence in you is a little more, and so you have a little more favorability, but you don't get a pass. So the financing typically require greater collateral and a more detailed and more robust business plan. So I did that, but because I had a track record and a pass, I could rely on the experience that I've had and communicate that, and they can see. And because It's a bank that I do business with. They can see also the cash inflows, the revenues, the expenses. They know you. So financing issue can be handled because of that. The second one is the complexity. I trusted the contractor with new technology. So we had new blocks, we had a new system, which did not require columns. So the entire 10-unit building, 10-unit building doesn't have one column. Instead, we have a specially designed blocks with holes, poured concrete, and steel, as well as a system of the floor and the roof that allows you to have steel joists, I think maybe 20 or 40 feet apart, which leads to perhaps greater strength, but more importantly, speed, and it's more cost efficient. Yeah, so there were no columns and no beams in that building. So it was complex. So the wiring was a little more challenging because each unit obviously has its own meters, alarms, cabling system. Each unit has its own plumbing. We use tankless water heaters as well. Small one is German engineering. We also had uh, a water tank, a 450-gallon water tank for each unit, as well as a pump, water pump for each unit to deal with the issues of irregular water supply. Um, the other issue we spoke of, number three, is time. Time for installation, time for the supply of, time for installation of the services. Also, the time, in order the amount of time it took to get materials on site, material shortages, to get the kitchens, the closets. These things were like 3 months, 4 months late, where the contractor had to threaten the supplier to cancel the contract. And then we had to juggle with maybe an order from another customer along with ours to actually get it within a reasonable time frame. Everything seemed to take a lot longer, but it was largely around supply side and around the installation and work done by the tradespeople. The contractor management is always going to be an issue. This project was very, very challenging for me. I lost a friendship as a result of this project. And yeah, very, very good engineer, contractor, client relations were strained because of misunderstanding on both sides. I may have seen to not show respect by questioning or by not communicating adequately or timely. Or in one case, I think I traveled and I had a representative go on site to check, and I did not inform the contractor about that. He saw somebody else on site, and he got quite angry that I had a proxy there that he was not informed of, and that caused a strain in the relationship. Also, issues of quality, where some of the tradespeople were probably not as focused or skilled on providing the kind of finish that I would have wanted. And you could seem bothersome, when you complain, and you can be seen as being unreasonable. You can be seen as being too demanding. And if you make changes, you can be seen as being confused, indecisive. And all the time you're the customer. All the time you're the customer. All the time you're the customer. We had an incident where the plumber, or a project manager just bought in a whole set of Victorian style toilets, when there's nothing in the project that is of that era, of that design style. So, I said, we can't have that there. We have to change it. And unfortunately, I changed it at my cost. So I paid for the change, which I really shouldn't have. But that's what happened, because I'm more concerned about the overall relationship and getting to the end of the project than haggling about some of those things, even if I know, even if I may feel like I'm within my right. I accept full responsibility for accusations of bad communication, and being too pedantic or unreasonable or fussy about finishing, accept full responsibility for that. But I also want some grace. I also want the contractor to understand, okay, I'm the customer still, and that I should get some grace. I should feel that he's working with me. But to that response, you might get, well, I give you a discount already on the build. I've already given you more than you paid for, or you too unreasonable, or you have no respect for me. So it's a lot. I know that I'm rambling on, but that was particularly stressing because it affected the relationship that I have with the contractor up to today, which is quite sad. Um, and the last issue that I wanted to bring up of the five is the issue of cash flow. Typically, you get a loan approved and you have the stage payment in the contract. And because the loan is approved by the bank, the money is disbursed after the inspector or after the inspection of your loan officer. My situation was particularly challenging. I left my job after the loan was approved and started the project with my own cash. About 30% into the project schedule, I still had not received my disbursements from the bank. An issue arose with my documentation as it relates to my ability to transfer the piece of land that we were using into the company's name. The loan was in the company's name. And there were issues around estate management as a widower and the shares of my children. And my son was a minor. And of course, I found out, I didn't know about that. I cannot act as the executive of the estate as well as the tutor of my son, conflict of interest. So I had to wait for a court date for the court to appoint a tutor for my son or somebody who's going to represent my son's interests to protect me from cheating my son out of his inheritance of his mother. I understand the logic. I understand the protection that may be required. Of course, I can't imagine a parent who would be a widow or widower and disinherit their child. But obviously, it has happened, and that's why the law is in place. It took me 1 year to get a court case, to get a court date to address this situation I are in, to allow for my son to get a separate tutor, somebody to represent him as a minor, representing his interests. And only after that's done, we get the letter, then it's issued to the bank for the bank to release the loan. What do I do for 1 year? And I start the project. That was a nightmare. So already now I'm on the back foot. So all of my cash would have been exhausted in the project. I would then have to go look for individual and separate bridging loans from hard lenders, from maybe another financial institution at a much higher rate, from a family member, to meet the shortfall. Now, all this time, I may have delay in payments for the contractor. So you realize what's happening now. If you have delayed payments in the contractor, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, then you certainly then cannot make demands of the contractor. So that made it so difficult to be firm on what I wanted in the project, my quality, my timelines, my priorities, or what I want to be seen done on the project. So I had to be negotiating the contractor. By and large, it was okay, but it became difficult. If I'm owing you money and I want things done a certain way, my negotiating power is a lot less. Having said that, so I had some other property I used as collateral for a loan, family member, had money loan, and I was able to meet the gap in that year. I also started pre-selling. So I started taking deposits from my 6 buyers to meet that shortfall. And I was able to pay the contractor, some of it delayed, for the work done to get to a point where we can actually finish the project within a year and a half. So I'm sure there were other issues, but these were the 5 key issues that we had when we tried to scale. And you would think that The biggest issue that you may have, outside of obviously having the money to do the project, is actually getting the customers. Getting the 6 buyers were the least of my problems. Was the least of my problems because we had more buyers than we had units to sell. So hopefully those 5 issues and problems that I highlighted, um, you can take note of, and you can put your plans to mitigate against them. When we come back, we're probably going to speak about how we address those issues.
Caribbean Property Investing presents CPI Wire, the Caribbean's first exclusive real estate intelligence feed. CPI Wire will deliver Caribbean real estate news, development updates, investment opportunities, market trends, regional project activity, tourism and property insights, financial and economic developments affecting real estate.
So if we were to find solutions for the 5 challenges I experienced, here are some quick ones. One, for financing, I would never, ever, ever, ever advise that anyone starts a project with their own money, even after the loan has been approved. Ensure that you qualify for your loan and ensure that you have your first disbursement on your account before you start your project. Until then, wait, because it's not worth the risk. Second one, complexity. Um, my buildings are pretty square, monolithic, box. I keep one paint on the outside white, railings black. Um, Inside, I have the same tile on the floor. The only difference in tiling is maybe in the bathroom stall and the bathroom walls, but the same tile on the floor for all the units. I have the same paint on all the walls in all the units. It was something called burial pearl, which is just a very, 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 very light gray. All my ceilings are all white. I didn't put any fans. I didn't put any fans in the ceiling because invariably I found that the cost and the challenge of the fans, they're not worth it. People have standing fans, and people just use the air conditioning. So all my cupboards were all white. My countertop, the same stone. It's like a Alaska white from Topstone, pick up Topstone fabrication, the same stone. I go to Home Depot in the US or Home Depot in Saint Lucia. We can chat. You buy the same handles, the same knobs, and the same fixtures. My lighting, I have no chandeliers. I have spot lighting in every room, in the kitchen, in the living room, and also in the bedroom. I keep everything simple, simple, simple. No curves. There's no big gable. There's no fancy design. It's a box because the beauty comes from the simplicity. And our motto is modern Caribbean minimalism. Inside your unit, you can do all the decorations you want. You can change the paint color. You can do whatever you want. But I give you a fairly minimalist, well-appointed a unit that you can personalize and make it your own. In terms of the time, how you do the time overruns is by having a tight schedule. You review the schedule with the contractor from the beginning before you sign the contract. Put in buffer, put in extra days, put in contingency plan. Try to identify where you might have the delays. So if the delays in all my projects, an area I get delayed in is the procurement of the kitchen cabinetry and the closets. So you almost order those things like in month 2 because you might probably get in like 6 months later. Also, your windows and doors, you order those things like in month 2, month 3. So you order all those things way, way in advance to try to meet your timeline and to also leave space for delays. If you order in from abroad, you even have to order even earlier and have space to store it in a container. So for time, make sure you have clarity and you review the project plan put in buffers to address potential delays. Contractor management, I may have to be a whole new podcast, a whole new course, a whole new class, a whole new module. Reputation matters. Reputation matters. In choosing a contractor, uh, look for their experience, track record, see what they've done, and speak to their past clients. And then you have a coffee, then you have a meeting, understand the rapport. Try to see where your personalities may clash. Try to communicate very, very early what your non-negotiables are. Speak about your tendencies. Like you might tell them you might come on site every day. You might be picky. You might see something crooked. You might point it out. That's the kind of person that you are. Or you're not concerned about those little things. You give them full authority, but you want quality done and you want it delivered, at a certain time frame. So track record, visible track record, speak to past clients, meet them casually, discuss your non-negotiables, share about your personality types, and then see if you get a price that you can work with. But have those communication before choosing a contractor, and then you hold them to the schedule. Cash flow, yeah, we spoke about it in financing, but ensure that you use the bank's money in as much as possible, in as many instances as possible, is the bank's money. Ultimately, you're still responsible for it, but don't deplete your personal savings and your personal reserves unless you absolutely have to. If you don't have the disbursement, do not start the project. Okay, when we come back, we're going to speak about a change in mindset that is required in moving from 1 or 2 units to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See you after the break.
Caribbean Property Investing presents CPI Wire, the Caribbean's first exclusive real estate intelligence feed. CPI Wire will deliver Caribbean real estate news, development updates, investment opportunities, market trends, regional project activity, tourism and property insights, financial and economic developments affecting real estate.
I know I just said a lot a while ago. I might have been a bit emotional because it really is scarring and you learn something from every single project. To move from 1 unit or duplex or triplex to 7, 8, 9, and 10 or more, you must have a change in mindset. I was never a builder, but I was thinking like a builder. I needed to start thinking like a developer. And what changed for me was when I stopped building what I liked, and instead I started building what the market demanded. So I moved from the 2 bedrooms. I never built 3 bedrooms because I think that's not my space, and I think it's going to be harder for me to sell. That's villa properties. I moved from the 2 bedrooms to the 1 bedroom. Now, in every project, you will have challenges, whether it's be construction delays, financing issues, unexpected costs, quality inconsistency or concern, supplier side issues, and you may even have accidents on site. But you have to learn from every single project. Now, if I were to change something, and if I could go back, what I would do differently, I would probably scale faster. But you're so busy just trying to keep your day job, qualify for a loan, um, learn the process of condominiumizing. We haven't spoken about that much, which is where you actually, after you've done the building, you then need to go to do something called a condominium declaration, where you now have to write a document and do a new survey that will subdivide the building into individual block and parcel numbers. That's a whole different process we can probably speak about in another podcast. But after you've done that, you are now able to sell individually, the units individually. So what I would have done, I would have scaled faster and I would have implemented the build, sell, hold, and rent strategy, which we developed over the last 15 or so years. Now, I would also standardize my design. I want to give a shout out to Gary from La Posette Inn. After I built and was renting the two-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouses, Gary came to see my place. When I had it on Airbnb, we probably were doing between 100 and 125 US a night. I saw Gary's place. Gary's place is like 400 square feet. Gary has a studio, everything in there, and Gary was renting for like 80 US a night. I said, that make no sense. And as young people say, the math was not mathing. How could you get $80 a night for this space? And I'm double the size. I'm only getting 125. So obviously it could be that there were other issues with my property, or maybe I just didn't test it long enough. And so I decided that, maybe I should go to one bedroom. And that's what I did. And the price point dropped from $500,000 per unit to $340,000 a unit at 440 square feet, and everything flew up the shelf. The standardization that I've employed in that last project is what I'm doing now in the BSHR Ridge project. Everything simple, it's a box, thin lines, everything standardized. We are going back to columns and beams because it's a different contractor as a result of the issue that we had in the last project, regrettably. No hard feelings. But the strategy is the same. So we're going to be doing 6 one-bedrooms in Bosejo. We're going to be applying the same BSHR build, sell, hold, and rent strategy. We're going to condominiumize, apply, get separate block and parcel numbers for it. And would you know that even at our first slab, at 30% build stage of the project, we've already sold, we're selling 4 and we're keeping 2. And we already have 3 units sold, and we have discussions of 2 or so buyers for the 1 unit left, even before we put any walls or columns for the ground floor. So, in as much as I recognize that the market wants 2 bedrooms, the model that we're doing for now is still 1 bedroom. We do have another project we're going to be doing in Bosejo called Bosejo Stadium East, where it's going to be two 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, only because the land is not wide enough to take 3 1 bedrooms side by side, because we want to go up another floor. So, having said all of that, I hope that you were able to get a better understanding of the model that I've applied in the last and developed in the last 15 years. The Caribbean, I don't think is suited. Maybe Jamaica, maybe Trinidad, bigger markets with a much higher volume of distressed properties that can be easily renovated and profitably restored. Maybe those markets have that, but in the smaller islands, I think it's a lot more affordable. It makes more economic sense for you to get a small piece of land. I typically advise between 5 and 6,000 square feet, and you look to your regulator, your planning authority, development control authority, find out what's the ratio for the land density. In other words, what the maximum I can build on this lot. Use that, build multiple units, and you don't have to build all one time. For example, if you're doing 4 units, you can put columns and build 2 on top, or put columns, build a shell for the top, finish 1 unit, sell that 1 unit. When it's done, you use the money that paid up the whole mortgage so far, develop the other unit that you built, the clear one, and then after that you sell it again, and then you go back to the bank, and you might have enough money to build 1 or 2 downstairs. But ultimately, the idea is that if you build 4, you should try to keep at least 2. It might not be possible, but you keep at least 1. But then after you finish with that strategy, you have 1 free and clear, and you have no mortgage. So while you're working towards your retirement. While you're working, you can apply for another mortgage. You do it again. I advise people, the first priority is to convert your rent to a mortgage. You can choose to stay where you are if you buy your parents' house and paying, a nominal contribution, which we call rent. But if you are renting, your first priority is to try to qualify for a mortgage. You build the 2 units, maybe on columns, you live in 1 and try to sell the other one. And after you pay for it, you get another mortgage, you build downstairs again, you sell 1, and hopefully you have enough profit to live in the other one for free. So that's the build, sell, hold, and rent strategy which we develop over time. If you want to know more about it, send me a message, DM us at Caribbean Property Investing on Instagram, or check out our YouTube channel. So you've been watching another episode of Caribbean Property Investing podcast. We're going to try to be a little more regular. I know we still have a while, but we're back, and we're looking forward to interviewing some more interesting guests. We have some exciting stories. We have 2 new people lined up for excellent stories that I think you want to hear, because ultimately we all learn from all of our guests. So remember what I always say, everyone needs somewhere to live. You might as well own yours. Even better yet, make someone pay you for where you live. Until next time, see you.
Congratulations and thank you for tuning in to the Caribbean's first property investing podcast. We want to help Caribbean people create wealth and achieve financial freedom through property investing. Our show provides general advice based on personal experiences and is for educational purposes only. For more information, resources, and past episodes, visit us at CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. Remember to click the subscribe button so you never miss a show. Let's go.